Aikido of Gainesville. My name's Tom Huffman. This is Keith McInnis and Stephen Rapp. And we're going to show the interrelationship of the sword with the empty hand and the weapons of Aikido and how they apply. So,
as we go through this, there's a lot of philosophy in Aikido, and that includes in the practice of the sword with an Aikido spirit. So a gentleman named Nishio Sensei was Tom's primary teacher, and he developed a way of using the sword that's consistent with the principle in Aikido of being an art of peace that seeks to not harm another unnecessarily. And Nishio Sensei said, this is the sword that gives life. So there will be many places within what we show where we'll take a pause and say, at this moment you can see where the act of the sword stops the person and gave them an opportunity to reconsider their ways. Instead of the ancient way of the sword was get the cut done and cut them, kill them, move on. The true exercise on the battlefield, right? Because there are lots of people, and each one of them is going to come after you. So we keep that spirit of always being aware that we may be on a battlefield with multiple attackers. We're not interested in wrestling with people on the ground, because when you're down on the ground, you're vulnerable to getting trampled and everything else. We want to stay on our feet, deal with this one, always know there's going to be another one or two. But with the Aikido and the Aikitoho Iaido of Nishio Sensei, it's just small changes that are educating the person who has gotten themselves confused and chosen to do something unwise by attacking somebody. So we want to educate them, not hurt them. Sometimes the education needs to use a language that they understand. That language might be twisting the body around, pinning them, stuff like that, throwing them far away. Maybe into somebody else if they've got a friend.
the thing about multiple attack, you use one person to stop the next guy.
But those choices are still a higher level of choice than, oh, you pointed your finger at me, I'm going to take your head. Right? You touched me, I'm going to slice you in 3 ways. So hence the sword that gives life.
But Nishio Sensei felt that you couldn't really apply good Aikido if you didn't understand the use of the sword, because the techniques were supposed to have come from the weapons. When he started Aikido, he heard this and asked for the people teaching to show, and they couldn't adequately show. So he went to the weapons masters, mastered the weapons, and then developed the techniques back to where they correspond with the weapon. This style of Aikido looks quite a bit different from the other styles of Aikido. It's a bit more complex, but it's just as strong.
So what Tom Sensei and Stephen will be doing in the first part is they will each go through the Iaido kata, but when possible from different directions so that you can see two sides of the technique at the same time. And then later, when Sensei is showing his techniques on these, he will show variations with other weapons, and Stephen will repeat the kata that corresponds to it. So the hope is that when you have all that going on at once, you'll see the relationship between the sword form and the other.
And hopefully we can slow down the technique so that it corresponds with what he's doing with the sword. And then you can see that relationship of how the movements are similar with the empty hand, the wood sword against wood sword, and wood sword against the walking staff. So, and the carry that we use is a straight ahead carry. The people that carry just one sword, it's usually like this. But if you had 2 swords, what they call the wakizashi and the katana, then the wakizashi would, once you got this in, then the wakizashi goes across here like this. So you kind of have to have this straight ahead in order for the other sword to be there and then they don't get mixed up. There's 15 katas in this Aikido set, and the first and the last kata are formalities. There's a formal beginning and a formal ending. I'll point those out. And then in the middle, the 2 through 14 are going to be Aikido techniques. And I'll give you the name and I'll also translate it for you when I can. There's a couple of them that I can't translate because the Japanese have 3 alphabets. They've got the kanji, which corresponds with the Chinese. And then they have a script that is for their words, that is just sounds, and then another one for the foreign language. So that's called, the one for the domestic Japanese words is hiragana, and the alphabet for the foreign words is called katakana. If the word is in kanji, then the kanji has a meaning and I can translate it. But if it's just sound, I can suppose, but I can't be exactly certain of what it means. So this first one is called shohata. Sho is first, and ha is beginning, and to is the sword. So this is the first showing of the sword. Shohata. The next one is a technique called Ikkya, which is usually grabbing the back of the hand or the outside of the wrist and taking this up and putting the person down on the ground and controlling them. This one is a shomanuchi. So the head is men, and sho is the front of the head, and uchi means to strike. The strike looks like this, but who hits like that? But if you had a beer bottle, or a knife, or some other one-handed weapon, a tire iron or something like that, they'd strike like that. So this is how to handle that. Uke, nagashi. This is a nice room. You can hear the sword as it goes through the air. There's a groove on the sword. Have you ever blown over a Coke bottle or something like that and made a sound? It's like the same thing. As the air goes past the groove, it will make a whoosh. So it talks to you. It tells you when it's straight. So if it's not straight, nothing. So my thought when I was learning was that it's like the old masters talking to you. And they're saying, when it's very good, it's, oh, very good. And then when it's just a little bit off, it hisses. And then they're saying, practice. If there's no sound, it's like, maybe you should take up something less precise like badminton. That was uke nagashi. I didn't translate for you. Uke is to receive, and nagashi is to flow. So it's a receiving flow, but normally it's translated as to parry. So that was a parry move. So the next one is called ushido-giri, means cut to the rear. Ushido is behind, and giri is to cut. And this corresponds with the technique called kaitenage. And kaitenage is one where you enter in next to a person, turn around, and then send them in a big rotary, and then send them forward in a projection throw. Ushido, giri. Next one is called Zen-go-giri. Zen is to the front and goes to the rear. So this is a forward rear cut. The cut that you do on the drawing this is called a kiri age, and it's a cut to chin. Zen kugiri. So you didn't hear the sword on that one, so I'm not a master yet. The next one is one called Sayugi. Sa is right, Yu is to the left. Okay? So this is a right side, left side. But there's a little extra out in front. So, Sayugi. You get that. So Sayugiri corresponds with the technique called Shihonage, which ends up with the person over like this. So that was a Shomanuchi Shihonage. The next one is Nikyo. It's a technique like this. And the name of the kata is called Suka Osai. Suka is the handle of the sword, and Osai means to pin down. So it's a pin down with the handle of the sword. And this is a crazy coming up and trying to grab your sword and take it away and stab with it. It shows you the error of his ways. Suka Osai. Next one is one called Tekubi Osai. Te is the hand, kubi is the neck, it's the neck of the hand, and Osai is to pin down. So this is a Nikyo on the other side, and this is another crazy guy. He's grabbing the end of this. So the first one was the appearance of a cross hand grab to here, and this is the appearance of a same side hand grab to here.
I'm going to be the crazy guy trying to take Sensei's sword here in just a few minutes, so you'll actually get to see him.
Tekubi Osai. And the next one is one called Kawashi Ski. Kawashi is one of those I didn't have a translation for. It's the hiragana, and ski is a punch. The technique that this is relating to is one called Sankyo, like this, and the attack is a punch to the chest. This is receiving that. I'm going to be off to the side of it and receive it, and then set the Sankyo. Kawashi Ski. The next one is called Tsuke Komi. Tsuke means to attach, and komi means to move in. In the Eshinryu Iaido, this translates to pursuit, and you'll see it. It looks like a pursuit. Tsuke komi. So that was a different style of chiburi. Normally, you'll see a chiburi that goes like that, and in some Iaido, it'll come out here and come in and go like that. That's the one If you see the old movies of Musashi, that's the one that the samurai would like to do, because it's flashy. The spinning chiburi throws the blood off centrifugally. It doesn't really work. It was tested by Mythbusters, and the one like that, it doesn't really work either. The only way to really keep from getting blood and other detritus into your saya is to actually wipe it. And that will show up on the 12th and 13th katas. Sume. I don't have a translation for this one. The technique that corresponds to is called irimi nage. And irimi nage is a throw with the front of the shoulder. Sume. So the next one is called sampo. That's 3 direction. So it'll have a 3-direction cut in it. It corresponds with, it can be either a grab or a shomanuchi, or it could also be a yoko nanuchi, which is, yoko is side, men is the head, so it's side of the head and strike. Yoko, yoko like Yokohama. Yokohama means side beach. Sampo. The next one is called shiho. This is a 4-direction. The technique that this corresponds with is either a shomanuchi or a kata tidori or shihonage. That was this one. Shiho. So you may notice that one didn't have the chiburi in it. That's the light. So when you're holding it up here like this, you could reach in and get a rag and then put it away. And that's the cleanest type way of putting away that I know of. The next one has more of a stylized white in it. And it'll have a very different type of a chiburi within it as well. So this is called nuki awase. Nuki means to pull or draw, and awase means to blend with or to combine or to move together. The situation is that there's a fight starting, the person who's attacking is already drawn, and it kind of surprises the person, so he's got to move back to blend with that attack that's coming in at him, and then return. Nuki awase. So that technique corresponded with a technique called gokyo, which is on the inside. It looks just like the ikkyo that's on the outside of the hand or the outside of the wrist, but this catches on the inside of the wrist, and it's used more for against weapons attacks, and has a different takedown. It looks just like the ikkyo takedown, but it's got a different pin. That's either a shomenuchi or a yokomenuchi gokyo. This next one is called todome. Again, this was another one that had just a hiragana, so I don't know what the translation was for it, except that in the Eshinu, there is a kata called sodome, and it means complete stop. Dome means to stop. To is another word for the sword. It could be stop the sword. But again, without the kanji there, I can't say for certain that that's what it is. And the technique for this is called yonkyo. Yonkyo works on a nerve that's right here in the wrist, and it's very painful. It's like pure pain, and it's almost electric shock. And the pin for it is down like this, and it's pinning the shoulder along with the pain. You'll see that within this one. Todome. The last one is Suemonogiri. On an older video, he had it Tsukemonogiri. So this is a formal finishing, and he said that this was in front of the noble, that you'd be finishing a demonstration. In the bato, the actual cutting with the sword, they have a competition where they have a beam and they lay targets on there, gold rice matting, that's about that big around, and it's soaked for a couple weeks in the water. And they stack up about 3 or 4 of these, and you're going to power cut down through that. I've only seen about 2 or 3 bato competitions. I can't say for certain that it's always the last event in the competition, but the 2 that I was seeing, it was. Although normally it's just a power cut and you're staying on the ground. This one kind of hops up and then comes down, a little bit different. It would be interesting to test this. Tsuemonogiri. So that concludes our Iaido demonstration. So now, Sensei Keith and I are going to show the interrelationship of the hand and wooden sword against wooden sword and wooden sword against a walking staff. So we're going to show 5 of the techniques, show that interrelationship. And I'm going to try and go slow enough that you'll see the corresponding movement of what I'm doing with what Stephen is doing, because he's going to continue to show that Iaido against what Sensei Keith and I are going to do. Uke Nagashi. Now, because last year we were on a stage and it had some give. Now we're on a floor with just a thin carpet over concrete, so I'm not going to throw it.
Can you do the rolls the way we practice? Can you safely take rolls on a hard surface? Yes, I've done it. I've actually done it to protect myself in situations. It's not something I'm going to choose to do 6 or 7 times during our demo. If I can't do it for each, then I won't do it for any. Can it be done? Sure.
This is a situation where it's like a fight. Well, it's a fight brewing. We're in a kind of an angry conversation. He decides that it's done, so I'm getting ready, And then as he goes, and then I'd catch this and take his sword away. On the stage, it worked fine. With the walking staff, same situation. And then this, take this out and around, turn it back up. So.
That twisting of me is moving. Sensei's using his whole body to move me. So I'm not leaping. He moved me that much. It's really cool.
So I'm using the weapon and taking him in the path of the Ikkyo. This is here. And then Omote takes him down to the front. Okay? So this is the Suka Osai, the pin down with the handle. So he's crazy and he's going to try to grab my sword. So I don't think he'd do that again.
That's the sword that gives life, right? Taught me a lesson. Move on.
So now with the walking stick. So this would be here and around, down like this. And then down like that. Then the next one is he's going to grab the front end of the sword. That's corresponds with this grab. So now here. And then this is a takedown to the rear. So this comes around like this, spins back. And then a pin looks like and that doesn't look like anything, but that's the technique that sold me on Nikyo. Because the sensei took me down the first night, and he's smiling, and he's telling me, relax, relax. But it felt like he could rip my arm off and beat me over the head with it. So you didn't have to be the karate. I always felt I'd have to be angry if I was going to fight somebody. But this, you didn't need any anger. And the sensei didn't mean me any harm. That meant all you have to do is execute the technique. That's enough. That's a big thing about Aikido. We do enough. We don't take it to where I can rip the arm off and beat him over the head. No, we just do enough. So. Here. And then we do the kata like this now. But in the old days, when I left Japan, it was coming down like this. That could end things there too. Then the Joe. It's a walking staff. But the word for it in Japanese is jo. That translates to stick. Shiona. So I took him down and take him down on this path, so that's the cut to the rear.
stops me.
See that again with the book in? Because I went through it pretty fast. Would that cut the chin? Age is a jaw. Sampo. Take it. So that'd be that final cut.
Did you see how when I went to grab him, it just sort of sucked me right in? That's Sensei skill, but that's also because I'm committed to my attack, right? So if he takes his hand away and I'm not committed, everything's dead. But if I'm going to grab that, I'm going to grab it and he just kind of disappears. And here we are.
That movement that I did that didn't go quite flat, that's strike the knee, and then turn and strike up high. I've got video of Nishio Sensei doing that, and the joke disappears in the video. It merges exactly with the frequency of the video. It disappears. So you don't even know where does Joe went. But when you slow the video down, there it is, right where I said it was going to be. That concludes our demonstration for today. I don't think we've got anybody behind us, so we're free for questions.
Thank you all very much. Come see us, Aikido of Gainesville. If you type the word Aikido and the word Gainesville,